that the matters that we discuss here will probably have a great deal to do with whether our country will continue as a functioning democracy or not. I repeat, this will have to do on whether we will continue to be a functioning democracy or not. Because the foundation of a democracy is the vote, the electors. And we have been shocked to know that the voting in 2022 was not on the level. And it is even more abhorrent, I repeat, it's even more abhorrent to know that an organ of the state charged with safeguarding the vote was exactly at the center of this fraud. Can you imagine the body designated by the Constitution? Isn't that right, Attorney Agabin? The body designated by the Constitution to safeguard our votes seems to be at the center of this election fraud. We are not crazy old men, which we are, okay? But we are actually people who have bothered to look closely at the results, which we noticed at the very start contained a lot of aberrations. They contained a lot of aberrations which we investigated carefully. And then later, we have come up with smoking gun evidence from the Comelec's own database that have put them at the center of this fraud. But before that, let us rise to give honor to the country we serve by singing the national anthem. Your right hand over your heart, please. Kindly remain standing for the invocation. May I call on Frank Ysaac to deliver the invocation.
Hard copy here is font ito. Okay, 458 days ago, that's today, after May 9, our nation went to the polls amid overwhelming crowd rallies, believing that our country had elected the rightful leaders. 1 hour after the close of the polls, news flashed that over 21 million votes had been cast and counted to the Smartmatic automated election. International news media pick up the same news while voting was still going on in many parts of the country, mostly due to defective SD cards in the voting machines. The incredible results established an unparalleled global record, but guided by your inspiration and the education and specialized training that the Tntrio was equipped with, the Tntrio went to work to examine carefully this incredible result. Guided by your spirit and imbued with skill and determination, the Tntrio, despite the initial skepticism of a lukewarm public, the Tntrio persisted with the help of unknown patriots within the Comelec, uncovered the means and details of the nefarious plot engineered by Comelec and Smartmatic. Today, 450 days later, the Tntrio's suspicions have been proven true, that the whole abominable scheme was designed to shock and awe the public and prevent any recount or protest. Despite warnings from some sectors that ours was a lost cause, we persisted and sought your powerful hand to guide us. We incessantly held novena prayers, not only at the Comelec, but also at the Supreme Court, with just a handful of believers. Today, with your grace, the truth has opened the eyes of thousands of believers in the fact-based truth. We pray to you, Almighty Father, to inspire us to light the fire of truth within this forum, and hope that you will open the eyes of our people to rise and defend their rights as they did in 1986. Amen. Please bear with us because they were calling us as, ano sabi mo kanina? We're the aging group or something like that. And people were calling us, they were red tagging us in one forum at UP. And our general says, we are not going to be red tag, we are maroon tag. Because all of us happen to be all from UP. Anyway, just to give you a brief, this is the encounter right now we had with the group. And you may notice that we invited a special group from the media, from the business community, and from various organizations. And the reason for this is because we have already engineered, so to speak, a lot of followers, maybe to our Facebook and some of the media that have picked up the news from us. So what we have here with us, with your presence here, is probably to imbue with you with the whole concept here that how this thing happened and how we uncovered the biggest scam in the Philippine electoral history. And that will be shown in the coming presentations of our resource persons. This has been done in some fora, but this is one fora where we have all the Tntrio. By the way, it's no longer Tntrio, it's Tntrio Plus. We have Atty. Mel Magdamo here. We welcome him. He was one here that when we together, you know, a short history of the Tntrio is that after the May 9, I started the ball rolling by doing my Facebook post, and I said I focus on the SD card. Remember the SD card? And when we started talking about how this SD card was utilized to make some candidates win, and after we presented that in one forum, there's one group from the Pangasinan, voters, that called our attention and mentioned to us that the SD card, okay, the SD card threw the ball at the hands of the Comelec people, and they questioned that. They have the same mandamos. To make the story short, the Tntrio was actually nothing like, you know, we were planned by some other forces. But we were just invited. We came together. Gus Lagman, who I didn't know, maybe because of his white hair, that's all I know about him, and he appears in some TV. And General Eliseo Rio, who also I did not know, and three of us, we were invited to that forum, and we talk about from different angles of IT. Ang IT po is malaking sphere of topic, no? I mean, mine, I'm the programming. Gus here, he set up, by the way, the STI, so you cannot question him anymore about his company. So, 458 days later, tapos na po yung aming investigation. Katotohanan na po ito. The next question is, what will we do next? So we now start, Mr. Moderator, by the way, Edwin Fernandez po is a past president, and we have many past presidents from Phoenix here. Attorney Santi Dumlao, who represent the business group, and of course, Ami. Okay. So thank you, and hope you can enjoy this, listening to our presentations. And later on, we have something for you, okay? Is that okay na? You can introduce mo na.
The movement initiated by the movement initiated by the Tntrio, we are not a political force. We simply were a couple of old guys who refused to leave the country to our children and grandchildren the way it is now. Okay, as I said, today we are discussing whether our country will still remain a working democracy or not. As I said, the center of democracy is the vote. and it looks like the votes were tampered with in this case. General Early Rio, I need not go through a código to introduce him because he was my upperclassman at UP. And to not know who your seniors are is a serious violation for which you could get a few love taps here and there. Okay? But suffice to say that General Rio retired. He's an electrical engineer from UP. He joined the armed forces and later on was heading the Signal and Communications Corps of the Armed Forces. Those talents that he acquired in that, plus his engineering training, led him to become the Commissioner of the National Telecommunications Commission. He later became the acting Secretary of the ICT, and then later on, the Assistant or the Undersecretary. And then now, he's with us because he knows exactly what has been done since he was both a government official, he was involved with Comelec, okay, and he's an IT expert. Without further ado, please let me hand over the mic to my upperclassman, General Eli Rio.
General Rio Rio is fourth placer of the ECE board examination.
Kaninit. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Thank you for that, Brad. Yeah, this is a mutual, ingradation na hindi ganyan ang Vanguard, no? Talagang matinig kami lahat. Yeah, okay. I'm going to present I think disgusted after my presentation that we were, the whole Filipino people were gypped during this 2022 national and local election. Okay, next slide. But before I go into my presentation, let me give you a little briefing on what an IP address is, because how the election was rigged depends on your understanding of what an IP address is, no? IP or Internet Protocol address was invented when we went into the World Wide Web in the early 1960s, no? And the World Wide Web, hindi katulad ng telepono, gulo kung lahat tayo ay may parehong cellphone number, no? Yung cellphone numbers is only limited to the people in the Philippines and the subscriber of either Globe, Smart, or Dito. So kukunti lang yan actually, no? Hindi katulad ng IP address na lahat ng cellphone sa buong mundo, lahat ng computers, lahat ng devices, including Alexa, no, are all connected to the internet. Nung ginawa natin itong IP address way back in the early 1960, hindi akalain yung nag-invento ng IP address, no? Sabi nila 4 billion 200 million is enough, sabi nila, no? Kasi noon, kukunti pa lang yung mga devices in the world. Pero ngayon, kinukulang na IP address, yung 4 billion 294 million, kulang na sa mga devices, no? Including, in fact, hindi ba ngayon may camera tayo sa bahay? May IP address yon para makita natin kung ano ang nangyayari sa bahay natin, no? So lahat yon ay may kailangang unique na IP address, kinulang. So ang solusyon is of course coming up with more IP address, no? Kaya we are now going into an IP address version 6. Dati IP version 4, no? Pero ito talagang this will make, aywan ko kung nadinig nyo na yung undecillion. Ako hanggang na tayo sa undecillion, 3.4 followed by 38 zeros. Yan. With that, IPv4, IPv6, hindi na tayo makukulangin even centuries from now, no? Itong number na ito, hindi na yan makukulangin. But wala pa tayo doon, hindi pa na-implement masyado yung IP version 6, no? So, nag-invento muna as a temporary measure yung tinatawag natin na private IP address. Anong ibig sabihin ng yan? Kasi kinukulang na ito eh. Itong public IP address, gumawa ng a certain range of IP addresses na pwede natin gamitin in a private network. Kung may malaki kang kumpanya, di ba parang hotel? Lahat ng mga telepono sa loob ng kwarto, mayroong sariling number na pwede magtawag from one room to another or from one room to the register. Yun ay private. Pero hindi sila makatawag sa PLDT. May kailangan kang i-dial na 9, no? Tapos didinig mo yung dial tone ng PLDT at doon yan. So parang ganyan yan, no? Doon muna. Hindi mo mapakwan. Okay. Yung figure. Okay. So parang from PLDT, yung isang linya, isang trunk, or isang linya or a number of lines, depende sa dami ng telepono inside that hotel, bibigyan ka, no? Pero yung thousands of rooms, may sarili yan. Kasi kung ang hotel mag-subscribe sa isang number ng PLDT, babayaran niya ng monthly, no? So, bibili lang sila ng tinatawag na private exchange o PABX at ikokonekta nila lahat yung mga numbers sa telepono sa hotel na yan. Hindi sila magbabayad pag tumawag isang kwarto sa isang kwarto, no? Kasi kung yung isang kwarto ay nakakonekta sa PLDT at yung pangalawang kwarto ay nakakonekta sa PLDT, kung tatawag to, magbabayad yan sa PLDT na hindi kaya ng hotel, no? So, ganyan din yung IP address. Nag-invento ng private IP address para from a smaller number of public IP address, pwede mo i-share to even thousands, no? Okay, next slide please. So, doon sa 4 billion na yon, nagawa ng range, no, ng private IP address na para lang gamitin for private networks. At ito makilala nyo kaagad, nagsisimula sa 10 dot, yung class B naman nagsisimula sa 172.16, and yung class C, na mas makakonte, nagsisimula sa 192.168. No? So ito, mga about ang combination niyan is also about almost 4 million. No? Sa isang hotel o sa isang kumpanya, wala ka naman aasahan na mga 4 million na computers doon. No? So, pwede na ito. So instead of subscribing 4 million, for example, 1 million sa isang malaking private company, instead of subscribing 1 million individual public IP address na babayaran mo sa telco or sa internet service provider, you come up with a simple private network na nakakonekta lahat yung 1 million mong devices, and then siguro magsusubscribe ka na lang sa 100 or 100 para any one of these can access the internet. Of course, kung 100 lang yung linya mo, 100 lang at a time ang pwedeng makapunta sa internet, no? Ito, you cannot use this to go directly to the internet. So, mayroong device, tinatawag natin router, papkayan. What is the importance of this, no? Next slide, please. Okay. Noong October 12, 2021, a few months before election, nagkaroon ng kontrata ang Smartmatic and Comelec. Si Kwan pa noon ang chairman ng Comelec, si Abbas, no? Commissioner Abbas. And ito ang nagpirma for Smartmatic. This contract is to provide Smartmatic will take care of all transmission from the different DCM nationwide. There are 107,000 DCM sa lahat ng mga presinto natin sa buong bansa, no? So, itong kontrata, ang Smartmatic ang ang in charge na gagawa ng isang network para lahat ng DCM after the closing of the election ay pwedeng magpadala ng kanilang election results or election returns, no, sa server na. This costs the taxpayer 1.053 billion pesos for the one-day exercise natin ng pagboto during May 9, no? So, yan. So, ang lahat ng nagpadala from DCM to the servers ay Smartmatic ang inatasan ng Comelec na gagawin yan. Next slide, please. Okay. Ito yung terms of reference ng network na yan, yung sistema na yan, no? Below are all the 107,000 VCM all over the country. Lahat yan, no? Each VCM ay may pag dinala yan from the bodega ng Santa Rosa, no, ng Comelec, where they test the VCM before sending it out, may kasama na yan na 3 SIM card. So, ang Comelec, for each VCM, nag-subscribe ng 3 SIM card para sa Globe, sa Smart, at sa dito, no? Bakit? Para pagdating yan sa presinto, saan man yan, ang pinakamalakas na provider, ang pinakamalakas ng signal na makuha nila doon, can be Globe, can be Smart, can be dito, ayun ang SIM card na gagamitin nila. Pero, binayaran na yung subscription kahit walang hindi ginamit, no? Okay, saan? So, there are 3. Ngayon, after the voting close, lahat ng BCM are required to send yung election returns Una, sa central server. Second, sa transparent server. And yung pangatlo, where that VCM belongs. Destination. No? Next slide, please. So, ito yung first. Yung second naman, yung second VCM, will also do the same. No? Punta sa central server, sa transparent server, at sa municipal server where that VCM is located. Okay? Then, on the third transmission, itong dalawang kwa na ito, yung election result nitong 1 and 2, i-compile na yan dito sa municipal server, no? I-add niya na yung result dito plus the result here, and then papadala niya sa provincial or regional, and so on and so forth, papunta sa national. Ito ang tinatawag na ladderized, no? And ito rin magpapadala ng certificate of canvassing, yung total nitong dalawa, and ay papadala sa central server. Yan ang dapat na mangyayari. Makikita nyo na pinagbawal or walang dadaanan kung nag-transmit ka ng email mo, pupunta sa recipient mo kaagad, sa computer ng recipient mo. Wala na yan dadaanan, kundi yung internet, no? Through the telco. Yun lang dadaanan niya. And in fact, ito yung end-to-end transmission path na pinakita ng Comelec sa NAMFREL, sa PPCRB, sa lahat ng stakeholders, at nakita nyo, diretso, no? Walang dinadaanan na other device in between. No? Tayo rin, diba? Kung magpadala tayo ng email doon sa isang kaibigan natin, ayaw natin na may sasalunong email natin, baka pwedeng basahin bago niya relay, no? Ang tawag diyan, that is actually a cyber crime, no? Na maglagay ka diyan at mapapakinggan mo ang padala ng mga computers. In fact, hindi lang mapakinggan mo, pwede mong baguhin yung mga messages from 2010, yung nag-umpisa tayo mag-automated election system, AES, up to the last election 2019, lahat ng natatanggap ng servers are public IP address. Ibig sabihin, galing sa telco, no? So, noon, I was the chairman of the Comelec Advisory Council in the 2019 midterm election. Alam namin yan na sa servers, ang lumalabas ng mga IP addresses are public IP address, yung binigay ng telcos. So, with that, alam namin na, ito galing sa Globe, ito galing sa Smart, ito galing sa, noon, dalawa lang, no? Okay. Pero mayroong ding mga iba na walang Globe and Smart. Ang ginagamit namin noon ay yung via satellite. Okay? So, next slide please. Okay, so, nagduda kami nung lumabas yung resulta noong May 9, bakit ang super bilis nung first hour? Nakapagbilang sila ng 20 million plus, a record in our history, and in fact, even a record in most of the world countries, no? Na makapagbilang ang transparent server ng ganyang kalaki na boto, no? in fact translated to ERs or vote counting machine that transmitted, the first hour alone transmitted, there were 39,000 in the first hour na nag-transmit already, and that is already about mga 35% of the whole transmission. Sa first hour pa lang, no? And then, okay, I mean, sinabi nila, mabilis talaga eh, dahil tatlo na ngayon ang telco. Okay, pero bakit from 7 to 8, nakapag-receive ang transparent server from 39,000 BCM, bakit sa second hour from 8 to 9 ay bumagsak ng almost kalahati? Yun hindi nila ma-explain. Kasi kung mabilis sa first hour, dapat kasing bilis man lang sa second hour. And in the first hour, hindi ka agad makatransmit. Why? May mga administrative matters pag gagawa ng teacher. Pag nagsara yung ating mga polling places at 7, marami pang, they have 9 steps to do, the longest of which is to print 8 copies of the national and local results. No? And in the time and motion study na kinuha rin namin from the video of Comelec, may instruction na video silang binigay how to operate the VCM sa mga teachers, yung pag-print lang takes around 12 minutes. No? So nagtaka kami, bakit ang pinakaunang sa ito, nagbigay na sila ng transmission lag, sabi nila, kasi sinampahan na namin sila ng kaso sa Supreme Court within Agabin, and pinapa nila na they were forced to show the reception logs on March 23 of this year. Napilitan sila, no? Ito ang resulta. The very first BCM o presinto na nag-transmit came from this ID, clustered precinct ID 310800839. This is, walang address, walang ano. This came from Isabela. No? So ito lang actually ang pinakita nila sa kanilang reception logs. No? Ito lang, itong column, yung sequence ng pagtanggap ng mga ERs, kung saan galing mga presinto, yung actual number of votes, and yung daytime na natanggap. So dito, kinwestiyon kaagad namin to. If it takes 90 minutes bago makapag-transmit, 19 minutes, and they could not close before 7. Bakit? It is against the law. Ang official time will end at 7 p.m., no? Kahit na wala nang nakapila sa labas, hindi nila ma-close yun. Bakit? Baka may darating ng 1 minute before 7. So, and that is a criminal act. You cannot deprive any voter, registered voter, not to vote pag dumating siya within the time frame na sinabi ng Comelec. So, kinestyon kaagad namin, 19, 8, and 50 seconds, that's equivalent to 7 p.m., 7 or 8 p.m., and 50 seconds of May 9. So, paano ito makatanggap? Sabi namin, paano ito makatanggap ng 8 minutes after closing kung the earliest time na makapag-transmit yung BCM is at least 19 minutes or 7:19, no? Hindi sinabi nila hindi. Sinabi pa rin nila, of course, na baka ito nagsara ng earlier. Ba't niyo imbestigahan? No? Wala naman nagre-reklamo daw. So anyway, you know, all of this, no, started. There are 5,000 VCM na kung sundin yung 19 minutes, 5,000 BCM close before 7 p.m. Yan dapat imbestigahan na yan, di ba? Laking bagay yan. Dito nga, ito, yeah. Hindi, yun na, may question na kami, no? Pero sinasagot nila ng, well, actually, hindi kami pinapaniwalaan na mas credible ang Comelec, no? Pero tinatawag na raw files, no? Doon din sa kanilang sa website nila. Ang nakalagay sa raw files ay dalawa lang nakuha nating pandoon. Yung ID ng presinto at yung IP address. Dito namin napuna. So March 23 na ito, no? Of this year. Hindi kagad namin napansin to dahil doon kami nakakonsentrate doon sa reception logs, no? Yun ang mga question namin, sinasagot kaming ganyan na baka nga nag-start earlier than 7 and we will make them explain, sabi pa sa amin. Hanggang ngayon, ewan ko kung ilan doon sa 5,000 or more than 5,000 na pina-explain nila bakit sila nagsara before 7. Well, wala naman nagreklamo daw. How sure are we, no? Pero ito, this became very important. Bakit very important? Kasi dito na puna namin na lahat ng IP address na ginamit are private IP address. Ibig sabihin, doon lang sa hotel na yon ginawa yung mga so-called VCM, doon lang sa isang hotel ginawa yung mga resulta. Yun, IP address. Nakuha namin yun, no? At hindi lang yon. Next slide, please. Nakita namin na isang IP address ay itong tinatawag namin na saan ba yun? Ito, 192.168.0.2 was predominantly used. Ibig sabihin, ang na-discovery lang namin ang na-discovery lang namin by about, kasi very tedious yung kukunin mo sa isang file, ilalagay mo sa, i-compare mo kung anong presinto galing yan. It's very fun, no? Pero marami na kami nakita. May nakita na kami 12,000 na IP address na 192. And mind you, marami yung 192 pero lahat telco. Mayroon silang nilagay na server o gumawa sila ng private network na wala nakakalam. Hindi alam ng NAMFREL, hindi ka alam ng kwan. Nalaman lang nung pinalabas nila yung raw files. At hindi kailangan yung raw file na yon para to prove their point na ito ang reception logs, no? Bakit may nagpalabas ng raw files? Ang suspetsya namin, may mga personnel na IT ng Comelec na nagpalabas nito. Disgruntled siguro sila, like what happened in the 1986 election, snap election, nag-walk out yung programmers. Ito hindi sila nag-walk out. Kuha na ngayon, modern na ngayon Pinalabas nila sa website itong mga IP address na ito at doon namin nakuha na basically itong IP address ay ginamit, no? Di ba, yung aming unang tanong, bakit ganyang kadami ang na-transmit sa first hour na I've been, regulator ako ng telcos, alam ko talaga yung speed natin. Even using 3 telcos, imposible pa rin. Bakit ganyan karami? Because hindi galing sa telco. Hindi dumaan sa telco. Dumaan sa mga kwarto ng hotel. Ha? Hindi. Yun. Dumaan sa isang private network na ang gumawa ay Smartmatic na binayaran natin ng 1.053 billion para dayain tayo. Yan ang implication niyan. Yan dapat ang gusto kong emphasize sa inyo, na bayaran na natin ng 1.053 billion, ginamit nila yung pera para dayain tayo. No? Sige, go faster now. Next slide. Ito ay lahat, no? Manila ito lahat. In the NCR, sandali lang. Pakita mo lang please yung NCR. Dito sa NCR, ito. In the NCR, ito ang pinakakwan talaga no? Sa NCR, there are 10,000 BCM presinto sa NCR, no? Yan, kita nyo, Taguig, pareho-pareho. We found out that 98% of the VCM that transmitted their ERs, 98% came from this IP address. So hindi natin alam kung saan galing itong mga na ito, pero gumawa ang Comelec Smartmatic ng private network na walang nakakaalam. And dito nila pinapadala yung resulta ng first hour. Nasa unang oras pa lang yon, tapos na yung boxing. Tapos na yung boxing noong unang oras, 8:02, hindi na nagbago yung constant vote ratio na si BBM is around 60%, si Lenny is about 27%, si Pacquiao, and so on and so forth. Parehong-pareho up to the end of counting. Alam yung sinasabi nila, yung kine-question namin yon, because that is the law of large number. Doong unang oras, marami talagang nakapag-transmit. No? Kaya yung succeeding ay almost the same as what was transmitted in the first hour. Pero dito, pinapakita namin na sinasabi lang basis of that constant vote ratio is fake. It is fake. Challenge na nga namin sila Pakita nyo yung talagang transmission logs ng telcos. No? Yan ang dapat natin na dumaan talaga kasi telcos lang makapagdala makapag-send, no? Pakita nyo yung transmission logs para makuha namin, no? Okay, I'm wrapping up now. Okay? Hanggang ngayon, October 18, nagsabi si Garcia, I am going to compel the telcos to show the transmission log. Sinabi yan sa publiko. Hanggang ngayon, wala. Dahil wala. That's very, very, in other words, bakit ayaw nila pakita, di ba? That will easily disprove yung aming mga allegation. Pwede ito yung logs ng telcos, sampal pa sa mukha namin. They can easily do that. Sinabi pa nga ni Garcia na, I am going to compel the telcos to show the transmission log. Hanggang ngayon wala. Because wala silang mapakita, no? Okay, I'm going to wrap up now. Sige, pero mo lang, bilisan mo na. Kaya pala mabilis, ang first hour, no? Tingnan nyo ito. Ay itong isang sa Batangas City, Precinct ID 100-715, nagpiprint pa lang, kasi hindi ba, sabi ko, may magpiprint muna bago magkapag-transmit. Ang first line ng date time stamp, kung anong oras nag-umpisa mag-print, no? Dito, 21, 10, 15, 16 seconds, no? Or 9. Or 9 o'clock, 9:10, and 16 seconds of May 9, no? Pero tignan nyo, yun 100, 715, kinuha natin, anong oras? 9:7:25. No, hindi pa na pagpadala, na-receive na on the first hour. No? Marami yan, pero I will just skip to them. No, but that is hindi ma-explain ng Comelec yan. Ang explanation nila, ano? Baka lang yung teacher o yung BCM time hindi synchronized sa Philippine Standard Time dito sa Kwan. Anong klase? Tingnan nyo po lahat yung cellphone number nyo. Yung cellphone. Pakita nyo yung... Akin na muna. Okay. Anong time? Sa time ko, 3:51. Tayo ba ay nag-synchronize? Ha? Ganyan na ang teknolohiya ngayon. Hindi mo na kailangan i-synchronize. Yung computer natin, lahat yan, synchronize na. Why? Dahil mayroon na tayong network time protocol. Yung nagsisynchronize nito yung ating internet service provider, yung telco. And it is synchronized worldwide. Dahil lahat na ngayon ay nakasynchronize sa atomic clock, no? To the nearest 100th of a second. Ngayon sasabihin nila, isang oras. Hindi, kahit anong, of course, pwede mong i-adjust, no? Ang time ng iyong relo. That's against the instruction. Bakit mo i-adjust ang relo kung tama na? So, baliktad sinasabi nila, mali yung adjustment ng teacher, no? In other words, hindi na kailangan mag-synchronize ngayon ang mga teachers natin na magsabi na sila ay hindi marunong mag-adjust ng clock. So, anyway, sige, bilis-bilis na. I'm going to wrap up na. Siguro sa pan na. Next slide. Yeah, pareho lang yan. Next slide na. Sige pa. Ito. Yeah, yung lupa, ganun lahat yan. Ang dami, kung makita nyo, yung mga nagpiprint pa lang ng 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. na i-reflect na doon sa first hour na sinasabi natin ay mabilis. Mabilis nga dahil preloaded, pre-program. Yun ang ibig sabihin. No? That's the only explanation. So marami kasing mga kwan na ginawa ang Comelec Smartmatic na pwede nilang kwan pag hindi ba anong maintindihan. Sige, okay na ako. Sige, I'll just entertain more questions. Yung kwan na, isang slide na lang na gusto kong ipakita. Yung halos second to the last slide. Yan, it is now clear why Comelec cannot show the telco's transmission logs na promiso mismo ni Garcia on October 18 because it will show that most ER received by the transfer server in the first hour of counting did not pass through the network of the telcos. Wala talagang record ang telcos. No? Wala talaga. Kaya wala silang mapakita No? Kaya kailangan pilitin natin as a people, no? Na dinaya tayo using our taxpayer money. No? Dapat, we must say, kailangan natin makita ang transmission logs. Yan. Sige, ito na yata, no? Yung last slide, please. Ito na yung last slide. Okay, so I'll just entertain questions later on. I'm sorry for, nalampasan ko yata. Yung time ko, hindi synchronize.
Because now, we really have tangible proof. When we started, ang nakikita lang namin circumstantial evidence. Why were the ratio of the votes between President and Vice President and all other candidates constant? Imposible. Can you imagine when the votes of Bicol come in, panalo pa rin yung isa? And the same exact ratio, these idiots used a linear equation. I don't know if those of you who know. And can you imagine the gall of them explaining that it was due to the law of large numbers? These idiots didn't know that I took up Math 101 twice in UP. That's why I understand perfectly the law of large numbers. Multiple attempts, one event. Hindi one event, multiple candidates. Hindi yun. That is the... now you understand why many of them are lawyers, not engineers. No. Exemption yun. UP yun. But anyway, that was being facetious. But now you can see the anger welling up inside us. Why? Niloloko tayo. Binayaran pa natin ang Smartmatic ng 1 bilyon para lokohin tayo. So that is at the center of all of this. Now will be Dean Agabin. Okay, now we will jump to the presentation of Dean Agabin. Dean Agabin graduated from the UP College of Law with a bachelor's degree, and from Yale University, he got his doctorate. Okay, he was chair of the Constitutional Law Department of the Philippine Judicial Academy for 18 years, retiring in 2020, Dean of the UP College of Law. Saludo kami dyan. From 1989 to 1985, and of Lyceum University from 1998 to 2004. He's an author and has written textbooks in Philippine legal history and books on constitutional law, both of which were awarded Book of the Year by the Manila Critics Circle. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Filipinos, Dean Pacifico Agabin. Would you like to have the mic there?
Equitable writ to compel an individual to perform a mandatory duty. Kaya po noong November 3, 2022, the Tntrio filed a petition for Magdamo's with a temporary restraining order. Ito pong prayer ng TNT Trio it is to preserve the transmission logs because they might be destroyed after 6 months from May 22, May 9, 2022. So, nag-file po ng TNT Trio noong November 3. Noong January 10, 2023, hindi po naman pabinigyan ng due course yung petition. Kaya lang, require na nila ang Comelec at yung Congressional Oversight Committee to comment. Gustong sabihin ay binigyan na diin nila na kailangan mag-comment itong dalawang bodies. In other words, they impleaded the Comelec Oversight Committee and the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee upang maisama sila sa Mandamo's case. Ang implication po niyon ay sila justices ang Supreme Court they recognized the importance of this case. So it is as if they have already given due course to the petition. So, yung nung March 23, 2023, kunwari, the Comelec complied with the prayer in the petition for mandamus Kaya, nagbigay sila ng printouts kay Colonel Odoño. Earlier, nagsabi si Colonel Odoño na magfa-file siya ng impeachment complaint against the Comelec. Kaya natakot sila. So, nagbigay ng printouts kay Colonel Odoño at kasama si General Tntrio. Anak ng baka ang binigay ng printouts hindi naman transmission logs, kung hindi reception logs. Gustong sabihin, there are only two logical implications. Ang Comelec, hindi nila alam ang difference between transmission logs and reception logs. Or, they thought that the petitioners were babes in the woods insofar as interpretation of the printouts are concerned. Kaya napilitan po kaming nag-file ng supplemental petition. Sinasabi namin, yung Comelec mukhang linoloko tayo Kasi yung printouts na binigay nila hindi naman transmission logs. Ngayon, noong April 3, 2023, as if to add insult to deception, nag-file ng Comelec ng motion to dismiss. Sinasabi nila, ayun, we have already complied with the mandamus petition. I-dismiss na po ninyo yung petition. Nagka-comply na kami In other words, academic na yung petition na yan. Kaya, ayun, nag-file kami ng supplemental petition at hanggang ngayon ay wala pang aksyon ng Supreme Court. Pagkatapos noong July 13, 2023, nag-file din kami ng additional or second supplemental petition to point out that the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee hindi pa nag-file ng report sa review nila at notwithstanding the fact that they are mandated or compelled by law to meet within a period of 6 months. So we had to file the supplemental complaint. Hanggang ngayon po medyo wala pang aksyon ng Korte Suprema natin. Pero ngayong araw nakatanggap ako ng isang resolution ng Supreme Court. It said that they treated our comment as a reply to the Comelec. Pagkatapos, yung sabi ng Supreme Court, yung kopya ng petition, hindi nila may service sa Smartmatic kasi mali yung address na nakalagay. Ganun pa man, according to our co-counsel, Atty. Magdamo, Smartmatic has a history of evading service of summons upang hindi nila ma-evade nila yung kaso. And I think this has been going on not only in the Philippines but also in New York and other jurisdictions. Kaya nagbigay po kami ng pangalawang address ng Smartmatic, which is in the same building as their regular counsel doon sa BGC. Hanggang ngayon wala pang sagot, pero na-orderan na ng sheriff ng Supreme Court na i-serve ito, ang kopya ng petition, doon sa building, in the same building, which houses the office of their regular counsel. Kaya po parang naglalaro kami ng hide and seek sa Smartmatic at ayaw nilang sagutin yung petition Mukhang of course merong presumption sa batas na flight is a sign of guilt. Baka po talagang meron silang mga maniobra against our group. Kaya ayun lang po ang latest developments ng kaso sa Korte Suprema. Pero let me just mention 100,000 voters of Pangasinan. Kasi po, doon sa Pangasinan, mayroong pre-election survey ng isang impartial poll surveyor that nakalista yung mga pangalan ng possible outcome of the May 9, 2022 elections. Paglabas ng resulta, baliktad Yung mga reported na losers, yun ang mga nanalo. Aside from the fact na yung mga voters, mga votes, electoral votes, imputed to the national candidates are exactly the same as that imputed to the provincial candidates. Kaya po, ayun, our petition in that case uh, was given due course. Our petition in that case was merely to compel the Comelec to conduct a random manual audit for the province of Pangasinan at their own expense. Walang gastos ang gobyerno. Ayaw ng Comelec. At it turns out na yung ginawa nilang random manual audit ay doon sa Discovery Hotel sa Ermita without public participation. Kaya po, there's really something mysterious in all of these proceedings. Salamat po.
Kung sa kontrata, yung pinakita ko kanina, bakit kung kontrata na makapagtanggap sila ng 1.0353, walang problema ang address. Pero yung pagtanggap ng petition namin, doon nagkakaproblema.
Okay, thank you very much. We will have a brief break so that we will serve the refreshments. Just to give you a little background of this group, we are not being sponsored by anyone, whether Pangilinan, Ayala, or any political party. We are just the four of us. Retirement namin ito, boss. And so, eto, as best as we can, we will give you refreshments. Wala kaming but, in the near future, it cannot go on like this. Ang kalaban natin, 1 billion, 4 billion, confidential funds, they have all of that. Okay? At some point, we will need your moral, physical, and financial support. Sa ngayon, personal po namin. So enjoy your refreshment. 15 minutes.
Maybe before the kidney break and the food break, Attorney Agabin here. Hindi naman kayo magka-batch ni Brad Santi Dumlao, no? We're all brothers in fraternity, but you're in the same category. But he wants to ask a question about the constitutional, kasi constitutional matter itong Magdamo's case. Would you like to take the floor before you go for a kidney break? Is attorney, past president po siya ng Phoenix. Let's give him ano.
Good afternoon, everybody. My question, I've been thinking, if it is proven that this election was rigged, and so we have persons in authority exercising illegitimate authority in their positions, what are the possible scenarios?
Thank you, Brad, and I'm glad to see you again because Santi was our head of the fraternity when I entered in 1955. So, we are considered the ancients. But I understand that a United Nations body has confirmed that the results of the May 2022 elections were that means. Although we got another report from another independent body that there was something wrong with the election system. That's why in the petition of the voters of Pangasinan, they wanted that we should return to the manual system of counting and canvassing votes. So, the Supreme Court has now submitted the case for resolution in that case of Pangasinan voters.
I would like to add po itong issue on the Pangasinan. The voters of Pangasinan requested us to take up itong issue po, especially on these SD cards. Just to give you a brief on that, we had a forum here also, and we took up that issue on the SD card. Secure digital, you know that, no? Yung sa atin sa mga cellphone. Ang nangyari po noon, nagbentahan po. Okay? It was relayed to us, and I posted that, nagbebentahan po ng SD card. Kaya yung iba na supposedly nanalo, kinausap yung supposedly yung matatalo, binebenta ng 20 million para lang yung SD card. The following day, nagbaliktad yung score. So there is really a basis, especially on that SD card po. I just like to add that because that really happened. And I got reports from Laguna, Negros, Bulacan, the same thing was happening. Nabebenta po yung SD card. That's why we want Smartmatic out. Anyway, thank you po. Kasi magbe-break time na kayo. Ayaw pa mag-break?
Is there a way to know the location of that private IP address? Or if it's only in which hotel or something?
Yes. In a private network, hindi magkalayo yan kung saan yung transparency server. So, the location of that router, nandun lang sa Santo Tomas. Santo Tomas. Ang transparent server ay naka-locate. Doon yung ginawa yung accounting ng transparent server sa UST. Yes. Nandoon yung itong sikreto na ito. Hindi nila makakuha yan kasi hindi makapaglayo yan. Yeah, it is within the... Kaya nga tinatawag niyan local area network. Sa area lang ng UST.
Elections, there should be a recourse for candidates who lost but strongly believe and have strong proof that they were cheated to file a protest. But with the current system that we have, the protest process is lost. Una-una, napakabilis, no? And then there's no chance to file a protest. The protest dropped to a very low number when we automated the elections. In the 2022 elections, 70% of ballot printing was done with no witnesses. In the past, NAMFREL, Lente, PPCRV, and other stakeholder groups were invited. But this time, if NAMFREL did not complain, saying that, hey, why were we not invited while the ballots were being printed? That was the only time that they said, oo nga pala, so you may enter and witness the printing. 30% na lang ang natitira. Okay. Si Commissioner Casquejo, yung in charge ng ballot printing. The transparency server received data even before precincts. Some precincts sent them. Pwede ba mangyari yun? Na natatanggap na pero hindi pa naman pinapadala. Therefore, there must have been a man in the middle feeding fake accounts. The transparency server is not even in the law, Republic Act 9369, probably covered only by Comelec resolution. The law only describes the ladderized system. Yun lang ang nasa batas, yung ladderized system. By ladderized yung punta sa munisipyo, and then sa probinsya, and then national. No. Next slide, please. But ganito ang nangyari, no? Time, the ER was printed, 7:41. Time, the transparency server received, 739. Natanggap na, bago pa ipadala. O ito, this one is 747 natanggap, 827 nung pinadala. Ito, pinadala na 727, natanggap ng 724. I mean, and these are just a few, just some examples of cases where the transparency server received the election returns before they were even printed by the precincts. Next slide, please. There are two possibilities. The Comelec made an honest mistake. Siguro, dishonest mistake? Or number two, the Comelec intentionally committed the mistake to favor one candidate. A man in the middle could be intercepting the transmissions and manipulating them before sending them to the transparency server. That's the only explanation that we can think of. Next slide, please. Is there a remedy? Next slide, please. Well, let us first review the election system used by Comelec in 2010, 13, 16, 19, and 22. And that is Smartmatic's vote counting machine, or VCM, also referred to before as the Precinct Count Optical System, or PCOS. Next slide, please. How does it work? The voter receives a ballot already pre-printed with candidate names from the Electoral Board, formerly referred to as BEI, or Board of Election Inspectors. The voter shades the ovals opposite the names of his candidate choices. The voter feeds the shaded ballot into the VCM, which reads and stores the data. The ballot, already marked as red, falls into the bin. Next slide, please. This is followed at the end of the voting period at 7 p.m. The VCM consolidates all the figures and assembles the election returns. So yung VCM mismo nagpiprint ng election returns. It prints 8 copies of the election returns, and the Electoral Board distributes them according to law. So 8 copies muna. And then the Electoral Board transmits the election returns electronically to the City Municipality Board of Canvassers. And then finally, the Electoral Board prints another 22 copies of the ER and distributes all copies according to law. That law is the Republic Act 8436 as amended by Republic Act 9369. Next slide, please. This is then followed by the 3-level canvassing. We're all familiar with the ladderized canvassing. City Municipality Board of Canvassers, magtatabulate yan, and they produce the certificate of canvass, which is used as a basis for the proclamation of mayors, vice mayors, councilors, and then after that, they transmit that to the Provincial Board of Canvassers. Doon naman, ang output is the Provincial COC, and that's used as a basis for the proclamation of governors, vice governors, provincial board members, congressmen, and then they transmit that to the National Board of Canvassers. The output would be the National COC, which is the basis for the proclamation of president, vice president, senators, and party list. Next slide, please. So what is the problem with this system? Next slide. The process is not transparent to the voters. Nobody witnesses the counting. Only the Comelec and the service provider, foreigners pa, understand the process. Insiders in the Comelec can easily manipulate the results. The question is, can we trust them? Even if both groups were trustworthy, a sound election system should nonetheless be transparent to the voting public. Next slide, please. Let me quote from the book Code Red. And I quote, "Unobservable vote counting is inherently insane." Dapat daw nakikita ang vote counting sa presinto, no? Kasi otherwise, anong nakita mo? Lahat makina. Di ba? From beginning to end, bakit? Pareho ng the last 5 elections. Puro makina, wala tayong nakita. No? And here's what the law, Republic Act 9369 says. An act authorizing the Commission on Elections to use an automated election system to encourage transparency. So, binabanggit yung word na transparency sa law. That's the title of the law itself. And its first section repeats that. It is the policy of the state to ensure free, orderly, honest, peaceful, credible, and informed elections, which shall involve the use of automated election system that will ensure that the process shall be transparent. So malinaw na malinaw, kailangan ng transparency sa election natin. Next slide, please. If the present Comelec system is flawed, then what system should it use? Next slide. What I suggest instead is a hybrid system. That's the remedy. Briefly, this system will entail manual precinct counting for transparency and automated canvassing for speed. Next slide. In a hybrid election system implementation, the voter receives a redesigned ballot. Redesigned, so for example, only candidate codes need be written for faster manual counting. Hindi na kailangan isulat yung pangalangan. Instead, candidate codes na lang. And this is being done in many countries in Asia. No? Codes na lang ang ginagamit. The voter fills up his ballot guided by the list of candidate codes. He then drops his filled up ballot into the transparent ballot box. Next slide, please. Then, the votes are counted. At the end of the voting period, the electoral board counts the votes, the chairman reads the ballots, poll clerk 1 records the votes into the ER manually, yung taras-taras, na ganon, while poll clerk 2 simultaneously records and displays them on the screen using a laptop and projector. Next slide, please. The counts on the election returns form are compared with the counts projected on the screen. And if equal, as they should be, the ER's, results of counting, is electronically transmitted from the precinct's laptops to the city municipality canvassing center. The ERs are also uploaded to a public website for easy access by voters. Yan, hindi, ginagawa din yan, but they do it 1 month after the elections. So wala nang interesado. Dapat sana, doon mismo, padalan din sa website. So anybody, any voter, can even do his own tabulation. No? In the comfort of his home. Di ba? Next slide, please. And then, of course, the 3-level canvassing. Diniscuss ko na yan kanina, COC. Yan. Next slide. The advantages of the automated election system with enhanced transparency and of the voters. Accuracy of the counting is very high. After all, manual counts are the basis of accuracy. Cost at approximately 4 billion is much less than that of DRE, which is about 30 or so billion, and optical mark recognition, which is presently being used by Comelec, which is more than 10 billion. No? So mas mura yung ano. Very minimal electoral board training and no voter training necessary. Vulnerability to cheating is very low, only retail cheating, if at all. Software will use open source, can be reviewed by anybody interested. Since only PCs and servers will be used, they can be purchased in any big city. Therefore, there are less logistics concerns. There are less logistic concerns. Sales opportunity is also spread around. No warehousing and equipment maintenance necessary, as all the machines can be donated or sold to schools after each election. A new set can be purchased every 3 years. Diba? So hindi mo na kailangan i-warehouse pa. Kadalasan pag win-warehouse mo, 3 years later, marami na hindi umaandar. So papa-maintain mo pa. No? And of course, no ballot box snatching as the results are transmitted electronically. Next slide, please. Precinct tallying will be maybe 3 to 8 hours longer than DRE or OMR. Direct recording election system or OMR, optical mark recognition system. Yun yung ginagamit natin ngayon, OMR. But 3 to 8 hours is nothing out of a throughput time of about a week. And by redesigning the ballot, this can probably be cut down to the lower duration of 3 hours. Okay. Next slide. Question. Given the present flawed system and at least one better alternative, what should we do now? Next slide. Convince the Comelec to change its system. And if we should succeed, we would be one of the growing number of countries that would have abandoned secret counting, which is what we have. Next slide, please. Countries that abandoned e-voting. Next slide. Germany abandoned that. Teka. Balik. Yeah, yung last sentence lang. The German Supreme Court, wag mo nang palaki, nawawala eh. Okay na yan. The German Supreme Court eventually ruled the voting machines unconstitutional. No? Next slide, please.
Now, if you look at the population of voters and registered voters and the total population of the country, because normally the bigger the population, the bigger the number of registered voters. So if you go from 1987 until 1992, then 1995, then this is 2 decades. You'll see sometime between 1997 and 1998, it became negative 2.3 million because there was a law at that time cleansing the entire voter database. And that was in preparation of the election of when ERAP became president. 2007 was the year when Smartmatic entered the Philippines, and I was part of the batch that brought in Smartmatic into the Philippines. It was originally a project of the former First Gentleman, Mike Arroyo. They incorporated it in Virgin Islands or one of those Caribbean islands. At that time, Smartmatic looked cute at that time, and we were impressed because we were against the other one, what's that? Mega Pacific. But so it had full of promises, and Smartmatic, there were 2 brands before. There was an election in 2008 in the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, and there were 2 providers, and Smartmatic is touchscreen, paperless. The other one is Avante of Singapore. It has paper. And Smartmatic is saying we must go paperless. And then in the 2008 ARM elections in Muslim Mindanao, it was paperless in Lanao, in Lanao and Maguindanao. And then the other one, the partner, Avante Canon, has paper. The elections were held in Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and the island groups. And then we were able to compare both. It has been proven in Comelec that the paper-based is superior over purely electronic because the purely electronic has so many problems at that time. And then Smartmatic looked like a loser at that time because the paper version of Avante looked superior. Then there was a bidding of 2009. Smartmatic said that they were preaching against paper, but now they won the award of being the provider of paper, the one that's using paper. It was awarded to Smartmatic because of, at that time, it was the First Gentleman who was insisting, yes, the First Gentlemen have been our problem. Now, even until today, no? Now then, when Smartmatic won, they don't know their product. They don't know their own product because they were selling a different product. So they leased from a Dominion voting system of Canada, and then that became our election system in 2010. And at that time, Smartmatic was not yet showing signs. No, was not yet, the problem in Comelec was still in ordinary overpricing of ball pens, papers, ballot box, and if you will Google my name, maybe what will come out in the Google is the one who exposed the folder The folder, it cost 3 pesos and 80 centavos. The decimal point jumped 2 decimal places to the right. It became 380 pesos per ballot, a total of 7 million. And I reported it, and I got kicked out of Comelec after saving 700 million for Comelec. That was 2010. Then the chairman at the time was Melo, Justice Melo. Then in 2013, the Comelec chairman became Sixto Brillantes. Because I filed on my own, alone, in the ombudsman. And then the Chairman Brillantes told me that if I will go back and be the supply officer of Comelec, I become instant millionaire. Then I must abandon those cases in the ombudsman. Then what happened is, of course, I did not accept it. Then, so again, I'm back to being a pauper, no? All the way until last year. Nelson Celis, Commissioner Nelson Celis, took me in as a consultant. But then I felt there's something very wrong with the elections last year. And I had the choice either to support Tntrio or to remain inside Comelec. I chose Tntrio. So to the facts, no, para 10 minutes lang, no, wala nang bulahan, no. How the scam grew, insider witness on how the scam grew. Now, ganito na lang ba? I will just lift the suspense. My theory here is ghost precincts. Ghost voters and ghost precincts. Now, before the Supreme Court or the courts were in denial about the existence of ghost precincts, until finally in year 2000, in the case of Sultan Usman Sarangani versus Commission on Elections, finally the Supreme Court admitted that there are indeed ghost precincts. But what the Supreme Court did is they tried to be nice by saying, oh yes, the Omnibus Election Code, Section 149, requires establishment of at least one election precinct per barangay. A barangay may officially exist on record and yet have no inhabitant because people migrate. If there is no inhabitant in a barangay, then there can be no voter in that barangay. So after a long time, because if you go in Mindanao, ghost precincts in the Muslim areas, no, they are normal. I mean, every election period, that's their industry. Yeah, I mean, it's a way of life there. But if you say bad words against that area, the 500,000, if you remember 2004, Hello Garci, that's 500,000. It shook down the nation. And then here, they took it very lightly. They say, oh, we committed a mistake by 500,000, so we will stop printing ballots. Oh, this mistake. Now, why would you commit a mistake that big? My theory there is because they're using different databases. Smartmatic has a different database which is super bloated, while the one with back with documentary evidence is only my estimates between 50 to 55 million only. The 165 million and above, they are ghosts. They don't exist. No? Maybe now how do we solve the problem? No, before we go para tayo, no. Ito na lang, no. There is a mirror database. Both the local governments and Comelec, they have a database that's almost identical to each other. The minimum age, the citizenship of a voter must be Filipino. Your residence must be 6 months. The only difference between the DILG database and the Comelec database is the minimum age. In Comelec, it is 18, the minimum age. In DILG, 15 because of the Sangguniang Kabataan. No? So that's the only difference. They are mirror images of each other. Now, they should match. The Comelec database and the local government database must match in theory. Right? But then here, there's somebody who knows that a big disparity, they did not match. Big difference between Comelec and DILG. And In fact, there was a memorandum circular signed by former DILG Bong Anyo and Martin Tntrio, who I was inviting to attend here. Oh, I was inviting him to squish him into admitting that there's a big disparity because he has the record. Unfortunately, he died. Yeah. Oh. I invited him here. I'm inviting him here because he knows that there's a big difference. So then, because there's a big mismatch between the Comelec database and the DILG. This is for the ayuda. When they went around the country to make an ayuda database, and there's a big difference between Comelec database and ayuda database. The ayuda is turning out to be more reliable now. So maybe because there are many slides here, but they are subversive, we will give it to you. We'll email it to you after this event. I have to stop here.
Before we end this presentation, let's give him a big round of applause. And may I add, I was in touch with one big, this is illegal, no? Text blaster. I don't know if you have heard of that. Text blaster.
No? Of this, if you give your emails, because I'll just point out some details here. The one in the left side, that will be our new election system. This is my scoop as of June 26, a few months ago. It will be a Smartmatic under a different name. Maybe they'll be using, most probably, Fast Track will be their name. Now, it's but it's the same people, the same. If you'll notice here, I saw something here which maybe General Rio will feel very interested about this. There's a speed there of data. There's a printing speed over there in the one we're using, 70 millimeters per second. So that is an admission by Comelec in their actual official documents. That is the only speed of printing election returns, and they promise to speed it up to 200 millimeters per second. So huli natin sila again. Anyway, I'll give you. We'll share with you the entire. This terms of references is for bidding next month. Actually this month, but because we were making noise, they postponed it to next month. So maybe they will change this again next month when they bid it out to Smartmatic, no? Because Comelec is planning to use Smartmatic in barangay elections. It's pointless. You don't need to use. Yes, but there's a reason why. The reason why they want to automate the barangay elections is to cover up the ghost voters, the ghost precincts, because the voter database of Smartmatic is different from the paper-based voter database. No? So here, I thought he will attend today, Congressman Bersaga. Yeah, did he attend? He did not know. He filed a bill just last January 25 to automate the barangay elections. Now, by the way, if you look at the date, January 25 was the date when the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee of Congress must file a comment to the petition of Dean Agabin. But the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee said that they're busy, they have not convened yet. They cannot file a comment in the Supreme Court case, but they were able to file a bill to automate the barangay elections. Again, if you notice, it was passed. It already passed on May 17, just a few months ago. So there's a decision to automate the barangay elections, no? As of May 17. But look what happened. The May 17. One of the before we record this, ito muna. Just the following week, this is the provincial election supervisor of Antique. She said, no, they will not obey Comelec. Yes, matapang eh. So I'm wondering how come. I tried to ask around. Well, because Antique is the bulwark of Sara Duterte. And they said that's her backer. She was able to say no to Comelec chairman because her backer is Sara Duterte. There's a tension now between Marcos and Duterte. So Marcos wants to use Smartmatic. Sara, she says, no, let's not use Smartmatic because she wants to become president in 2020. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I'll come back. So what Comelec did when they felt when there was tension between Marcos and Duterte, Comelec blinked. According to Comelec, let us limit only to certain areas. Select some barangays to ano. And one of those selected is Barangay Pasong Tamo in Quezon City. And then also Barangay Paliparan 3 in Cavite. And there are also a few others, though. But I'll cite. In Barangay Pasong Tamo in Quezon City, where they plan to use Smartmatic, it has a big population. No? The former barangay captain there is now a congresswoman, Congresswoman Marivic Pilar. Then the former barangay captain after Congressman Marivic is Banjo Pilar, who became konsehal in Quezon City. Then the incumbent barangay captain is their daughter. So that Smartmatic is planning to use a super political dynasty. Then they will later on announce, oh, ang ganda-ganda na Smartmatic sa barangay elections. And then this is their product. Now, another barangay chosen is Barangay Paliparan 3 in Dasmariñas, Cavite. If you study that barangay, it's full of informal settlers. The ratio of informal settlers with the true residents there's a big difference. And then it's in terms of pilferage of Meralco, nakawan ng kuryente, it's one of the worst, Barangay Paliparan 3. And that's where they intend to use Smartmatic in the barangay elections. So now there's a big question. Why they want why are they insisting to use Smartmatic? And then when there's this tension between Marcos and Duterte, no, and all of a sudden, this one, it looks very innocent. It came out in Manila Times, May 25, that Comelec will stop the printing of excess ballots because Comelec already finished printing barangay ballots many months ago, because a barangay ballot is very simple, just lines, just the name of the barangay. You fill in the blanks. It's but if you use Smartmatic, you have to indicate the names. All of a sudden, they stop printing much of shenanigans in Smartmatic. But in 2013, it's beginning to show signs in the senatorial elections. And then in 2016, if you'll notice, in the number of voters compared to the number of total population, in 2019, you'll see a big difference, a big difference in 2019 elections, no? But it already looks scandalous. I mean, that's already alarming. The population increases only 4.6 million, and yet the total number of registered voters in 2019 is already more than 9 million. And yet nobody was making noise, no? And then around March last year, 2 months before the election, I was making noise, and a few others, and Gus Lagman. And at that time, we don't know each other yet at the Tntrio. And then, look what happened in 2022. In 2019, the total number of registered voters was 61,843,771. Because of the election watchdogs were making noise, they listed it down. That is more truthful, that 51,360,557. Then, during the COVID years, 2020, 2021, when hardly anyone were registering, it jumped up to 65,745,529 during the COVID years. And that is the biggest ever in Philippine electoral history. It has never been, it never happened that way. If you go to the average, in every election year, on the average, the increase is only 3% in every election year. But in the Marcos election of 2022, the biggest ever, 28% increase in registered voters. So definitely, a substantial number of those voters, they don't exist. They only exist as electronic algorithms that went into the man of the middle, which was exposed earlier by General Rio. And it explains why in the first hour, you have as many as 20 million voters in the first hour. They came from this non-existent voters.